Welcome to this week's edition of She Means Business. My name is Munde, and today I'm not your host. Today, your host is Sawe, Chief Operating Officer at the Partnership Africa, and I'll be hosting Munde and Connie Aluoch in a special one-year anniversary episode of She Means Business.
Thank you so much, Sally. My name is Munde, and today I'm on the other side. I'm usually hosting, but today I'm a guest, and we're so happy to have a former guest, Sawe, leading the conversation.
Yes. Hello, my name is Connie Aluoch. I'm an award-winning fashion stylist, fashion entrepreneur, and personal branding expert.
And today, the reason we are having Connie especially is because we want to have a conversation around corporate and personal branding and how it impacts each and every one of us. And so before we go into that, I want to talk a bit to Claire, because today is a special edition. And as I said, we are celebrating the first anniversary of She Means Business. And so we want to talk to Claire about the history of the program, what she has gone through to get here, who are some of her special guests, what are some of her special memories. Claire, can you give us a bit of the history of She Means Business?
Thank you so much for that. Yes, it's been 1 year of She Means Business. We started the first show in June of 2024. I know June is a tricky month in Kenya's history, but it's also a special month because it's the first time that She Means Business went on air. So to give a little bit of background of how She Means Business started, so it happened in June, actually, early June. I was having a conversation with my boss, Effie. Hi, Effie. And he was talking about some of the products he'd like for digital. Effie is the head of digital at Citizen Digital. And he was talking about, okay, I think we need a women's show. I think we need an academic show. And he also talked about tech. So I looked at the three and I was like, women show stuck out to me immediately, because I actually had the idea for a while, but then when he brought it out, I was like, this sounds interesting. So the concept of the show was She Means Business. So initially the show was to feature business women, so people who are running their own businesses. But then I thought, you know what, there are so many people, women, who are making an impact, who are not only running their businesses, there are people who are in employment who are making an impact. And so I said, She Means Business, you mean business. If you're serious about what you're doing, we'd like to tell your story. So that's what it became. So it became a businesswoman, a woman who is in employment, who means business and is serious about their work and making an impact. And we hit the ground running. So I started reaching out to people who are doing impactful things in their career. And the first person we featured was Professor Elizabeth Kalunda, who is the IcePack chairperson.
For you to be something, you don't have to struggle so much to be that thing. Look at the process. Get through the process, and whatever you want will be there for you.
So we had that, and then we started putting people from across. So we've had CSs, we've had people who are influencers. So as long as you're making an impact, that's what we are doing. And now, we're now in July. Almost 50 episodes later, we have made an impact. We have talked the stories of women making an impact and really shown that, you know what, even you, wherever you are, you can see their stories and you can relate. Even if I'm trying to climb that ladder, even if I'm trying to make an impact, it makes it more relatable. So I'm so proud of the team that we've been through. We started off with an all-female crew. And actually, right now, the person I started off with, Dinda, is behind here. When we started off, I actually started off with her, and we've been along this journey quite a bit. And when I explained the concept, she got it, So we shot, and it's been a journey, and there's just more to come. So I think one thing that a lot of people have been asking, what about He Means Business? So
good one, which is also true.
I know, which is true, because there are men who are making an impact, but we'll talk a little bit about what we are planning for the men who mean business. But that's been the journey of She Means Business, 1 year down the line, and we're going to do even more in the years to come.
Wonderful. And now I have to ask you, 50 episodes, I mean, it sounds extremely difficult, extremely challenging. So if you can tell us some of the challenges that you've had to overcome to get here.
It's not been it's not been an easy journey. You know, when you're dealing with all kinds of people from different spheres of life, sometimes it's technical things. Sometimes you're just trying to close that deal and then the dates just don't align. So sometimes it's something as simple as that. Somebody is not around because, as we said, we are featuring people who can be having busy calendars. So sometimes getting that person, you get a date, then, oh, I have to fly out, oh, this and that. Then there are times that you put out an episode and then people say like, oh my goodness, you could have done this different. So it's been a learning journey, and I always like to go to the comments because you know they say that feedback is a gift. It's a gift. So sometimes you're like, maybe you should have asked this question, and you're like, I thought I did well. Like we always so I think it's always good to look at it from that perspective. Learn as you go. So those are some of the challenges that I've experienced. And then sometimes, I think this is not really a challenge, but a thing to rethink. Sometimes you think there's this guest that people will love. We love, and it will be the best. And then you're like, hey, these views, what happened? No, they say that you should balance. Don't be all about the views because you know you're trying to make an impact. You're trying to inspire people. But sometimes you're like, hey, these views, after all this work. And then there's somebody you are like, I didn't think that the views would be so much, and you're like, wow, okay. So it really helps you. The way when we are featuring you and you talked about analytics, sometimes what you think people want is not what they want. So it's striking a balance between, because it's audience led, but at the same time you need to stay true to what the program is about. So those are just some of the challenges that have come with doing the show.
But with every challenge, there is also the positive side. So what is it that you have loved the most? What is it that you have learned and you will take away as you move into the second year?
Yes. For me, the lessons that I've learned is that, you know what, we can all achieve what we want to if we set our mind to it. Because sometimes we see all these executives and it looks very far out there, but then when you speak to somebody, they've also been through that route. They've also had the challenges, because when you see somebody in the C-suite or you see a government executive, it looks like everything has been rosy. And I remember one guest, the CS for tourism, she was like, you know, I took the lift, not the lift, I took the stairs to the top, not the lift. There's no lift. So you actually have to put in the works.
I've become more competent. I have become more confident. I have become more qualified, and I have learned a lot.
So I think for me the best thing has been just getting lessons, and really it helps know that it's possible to achieve these things.
Excellent. And now, as obviously you look forward, you know, it's been 50 episodes. What do you plan to do next, and how will the show change, continue making an impact?
That question. So remember I talked about the he means business. So I've been getting so much questions on this he aspect. So I'm not going to reveal too much, but the men who are making an impact, we've not forgotten you, we have not abandoned you. So just look out for something. I want to give details. Stay calm, exactly. Keep calm.
Something is coming.
Something is coming. So for the men, it's going to be a lot of that. And then we are going to move out of the county. So we've been doing a lot of Nairobi. So now there are women who are making an impact throughout the country. So we are going to be doing a lot of county features, so look out for that. So if you know any woman, or if you are a woman who's making an impact and you're not in Nairobi, don't fear, just reach out to us. We will come and we will share your story. So more of the counties and men, hold on there.
And before I ask my next question, maybe you can tell some of these women in the counties, how do they reach out to you?
Yes. You can always reach out to us, Citizen Digital, through X. You can send us a message, direct message at Citizen TV Kenya, or you can also drop me a DM at Claire DUDIEU, and we will reach out from there. So just go to our social media pages, whether it's Facebook, X, Instagram, drop us a message, tell us your story, and then we will take it from there. We'll find out more about you, and then we will take the story forward.
So thank you, Claire. I just have one more question before we get into our theme of the day. And that question is all around, if somebody else wants to do exactly what you're doing, how would they go about it?
That's a good question. So I always say, just start. Because sometimes fear cripples people, and they're like, I feel like I'm not yet there, so you keep on postponing. I say just start. So the first episode is not the same as this episode, even though I've been doing this for very many years. there's something that you learn and you just need to start. So sometimes if you feel like I'm shy, I'm camera shy or whatever, just start wherever you are. And then that feedback is a gift. Look at it, go and tell your friends, your colleagues, like, what do you really think about this episode? What could I improve on? So get that feedback and then keep on practicing, and then sure enough, you'll be able to do whatever you need to do. So just focus and start. Me, I always say just start. You don't have to have everything figured out. You learn as you go
along.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. And we are really excited for the next 50 and even more episodes. So now I think we can get into the theme of this week's episode. And obviously now we will bring in Connie because we see her as an expert in personal and corporate branding. And I think the first thing maybe we can talk about is, Connie, you can explain more about exactly what it entails, because I feel there is a bit of confusion when it comes to exactly what is it. I don't understand it. Do I need it? Where do I begin? So maybe you can take it from there, and then Claire can also.
Thank you, Sally and Clay. Thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be here on the 1-year anniversary. So I feel very honored. I think I like to have conversations about brands. So let me ask you, ladies, in your opinion, what is a brand? In your opinion, what is a brand, Sally?
I think you shouldn't ask me because it's definitely my business. So we'll ask Claire.
Okay, Claire, what is a brand? Claire, what's a brand?
I think a brand is something that identifiable factor.
Yes.
Whether it's someone or a corporate, it's something that you identify somebody or something by.
Yes, so something that you identify something or somebody. So do you believe you're a brand?
Yes, I believe that.
So right here we're 3 brands. So basically a brand is an identity. It's an identity. That's the first thing. It's an identity. It's a mark. So what I do, I talk about personal branding. So it's how you market yourself and your career or whatever you do, whether an entrepreneur in the corporate, as a brand. The two go hand in hand. Your personal brand and your corporate entrepreneurship brand. So you don't drop your brand on Friday night at 7 p.m. to pick it up again at 8 a.m. on Monday. No, it's 24 hours. Your brand is on show 24 hours. So you have to be very conscious of what you're doing. I'm not saying that you don't live. I mean, live. But be conscious of the decisions you make, because every day in this Kenya that we live in, everyone is, what do you call it, press person. All you need is pick up your phone, video, click, send. So in this day and age, you have to even be more conscious about your brand. So that in essence is what a brand is. Yeah,
and I think I like that. You know, the way you're saying you don't leave your brand on Friday, then you do whatever you do on Monday, and Monday Then what would you say, you know, even when we're talking about that brand on different platforms on social media, the LinkedIn, the X, the Instagram, sometimes you see people very different, showing up very differently. So how do we strike a balance between being authentic and living a little bit? Because you see, LinkedIn, it's that, you know, that headshot corporate, I'm a corporate body.
This is it.
CEO. But on the weekend, your Instagram is to show.
Yes, my Instagram is like, you know, I'm wearing whatever I want. I was out. So how do you strike a balance?
So that's an interesting question. I get that a lot. So I mean, the corporate world is corporate. So there's, you know, there's a place and everything for, and just like how some things you post on Instagram, you wouldn't post on LinkedIn. So you need to be able to, first of all, distinguish what content is appropriate for LinkedIn and what content is not appropriate. Because I see some posts and I'm like, that could have been an Insta story. It didn't need to be an Instagram post. But in being authentic, your authentic self comes out on your Instagram, so you can post what you want to post. But I always say, remember, anyone or any employer or any client who wants to do work with you is going to look for your footprint on social media. So even as you're being authentic, be conscious of what you're posting. Be very conscious. I'm not saying don't live your life, but be conscious. Because in everything, choices have consequences. So be authentic, but just be careful about what you're posting.
Okay, so Sally, I'm going to go to you to tell us some things you do if you've already crossed that line and you've put the post that you shouldn't have put. But what are some of the do's and don'ts? Give us 2 don'ts. Give us 2 don'ts of what you should put on social media, even as you're trying to live your life. And then Sally, you'll talk to us a little bit about, okay, how do you manage a crisis? So you put that and it's all out there and it's become viral and people are like, is this the person we thought we...
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So in terms of do's,
Yeah.
do be a thought leader on social media. In your area of expertise, if you're in finance, it's great to slowly grow your, what do you call it, your audience. By at least once a week, you can post some nuggets on, you know, your financial tips. Every week, and TikTok, you can do a small video, and slowly, consistently, in 6 months, you'll have a growing. That's a do. And definitely, as you show up on your social media, have the presence to show up. You can take your pictures as you're giving your talks or everything. Again, you're growing, right? Those are the definite do's. I'm going to go to Sally for the don'ts. So let's say you post something that is not quite appropriate regarding finance or something, then what do you do? Because now by the time you post it, I mean within 10 minutes, and then your colleague says, I don't think that post is appropriate. But within those 10 minutes, it's already been shared, and it's already, people have taken pictures. So what do you do? Do you issue an apology? Do you ignore it? What are you supposed to do?
I think one of the biggest mistakes actually is that most people decide to ignore it. But you can't ignore it because it's already out there and people are forming opinions. And I think the first few minutes of learning of the crisis is the most critical part, and is the, actually the time when you can take a decision on how to manage it. And you can either manage it well or actually manage it very poorly. And I say that because what happens is that the first thing you should do is first you must acknowledge the mistake. I think that's most people try to deny it, but the more you deny it, actually you drive the conversation even further, because then people then want to fight with you about it. But I think if the first step is to say, actually I recognize that there has been a mistake,
so you apologize.
and you apologize and you say maybe this was the context. Because there's always a context, because people see only what has been posted, but maybe there was a context that could explain everything. So I think the more open you are, the more candid you are about what has happened. And sometimes you say, you know, it was a mistake, and sometimes there's even no context. It's just literally to say it was a mistake.
It could be innocently just a mistake.
It could be a mistake.
And that's it.
And I think a lot of the times there are very many experts who deal with crisis and sometimes it's good to reach out to somebody. Somebody in PR, somebody who manages crisis, and say, what is the best way to deal with this? And the next thing is, please do not go to ChatGPT to say, how do I draft a retraction or something, because it really does come through as not human, not genuine, and not authentic, and therefore again you continue to expose yourself where you could have stopped the stem. So I think that is one of the biggest things, is that just, you know, be authentic, be candid, deal with the situation for what it is. And I can tell you that on social media, things move at the speed of light. Before you know it, people will have moved on, but also the way you handle it helps them to move on faster. So I think that is the advice I would give.
Do you think there's a place for maybe no comment?
There is a place sometimes for no comment, because a lot of times there is, you know, social media is also a place where sometimes people provoke because of clicks. So I think you have to be able to understand, is this something that is going to affect my brand? Is it gaining any traction? Because sometimes it doesn't have traction. It will die if you observe it in another 30 minutes. So sometimes being quiet is the better thing to do. And I know that it's very difficult because, you know, most of the times it's your personal pride, but sometimes it's better to keep quiet and let it just die in the wave of ignorance, and let it be, because I actually think that's a very good question. Most people choose not to keep quiet, but there is a place for silence, especially because a lot of times it may not even be real. Today in AI, some of even the things we see are not genuine, so most people don't even fact check, they just post it. So I think it's good sometimes to let some of these things go, especially if you see that it is not picking up and becoming something viral that then needs to be addressed.
So it calls for discernment.
Exactly.
You know, don't go from the frying pan into the fire, but also don't bury your head in the sun.
In the sun, when it's, you know, you have to be open.
Now I'd like us to talk a little bit about corporate branding and personal branding. You know, Sally, you've been in this business for 20 years plus. And you've been building some of Africa's biggest brands. So tell us, what does it take to build a strong corporate brand, and then we'll go and tie it into the personal brand, how we can build a strong personal brand.
I think Connie mentioned something very critical. I think a brand is an identifier. And when you start with the brand, the biggest thing thing is around how do you differentiate yourselves? Because across every category, there is somebody doing exactly what another brand is doing. If you talk about banking, there are more than 60, 70 banks in the market. If you talk about any product, it is all about how do you differentiate yourself? How do you give the consumer the value that is relevant to them? And therefore, how do they remember you against anybody else? Especially for brands and products that are actually very similar. There is absolutely no difference. So what is it that you can say? So in many ways, it can be the same, but it is how do I communicate my difference? Or even if it is the same, how do I communicate in a more interesting way? Sometimes you see brands going to say, let's use humor. Some brands that have a lot of money say, let's, you know, take all the billboards, you know, and therefore just by ubiquity everybody will know me. So there are very many different things that people play, but a lot of the times sometimes you even have, we push back and tell a client, how can you go back to the drawing board and just add that one thing that drives value for you more than anybody else? Because a lot of times it's just that hard effort that you have to make to say, how do we separate ourselves? Is it service? Is it quality? What is it that we can do? Can we do it faster? We can deliver it within the hour. There is always something that can be done better, and I think that effort to differentiate yourself is what sets you apart, and that's what starts building your brand, because that's what will drive memorability, that is what will drive demand.
And Connie, you know, when we are doing She Means Business, there are a lot of women who come to us, oh, I'd like to be featured, but you know, there's a vetting process, and we have to look at, okay, who are you, what are you about, you're doing these things, but what are you really about? So what would you say are some of the factors that come really up there when it comes to building a personal brand that is memorable? You know, Sally is saying, what differentiates you? Because sometimes it's like so many people are doing the same thing. So what really differentiates you? What are some of the factors someone should sit down and say, okay, I'm doing this, there are many people in my field, but what is going to differentiate me from the crowd?
I think that's almost a conversation about brand pillars. So for any brand, it's the values. As a person, what is Connie willing to do, to say yes to, and then some she's like, nope, this is non-negotiable, this doesn't align with my values. Once you have identified what your values are as a brand, then even your customers know coming to you, when we're going to get this service from Connie or from whoever, this is her brand values, she can do this, and this was very specific about she's not willing to do. Brand values are the ethos of any brand, whether it's a corporate brand or a personal brand. Authenticity, what Sally talked about, your brand values, your authenticity, your transparency, all the rest will come later. But the core of any brand is brand values. That is the key to anything in branding.
Okay, and then could we talk a little bit about executive presence? There's this thing about executive presence and really how you portray yourself out there. Because sometimes people think like, I am who I am. I mean, you'll take me as I am or leave me. So tell us, is it important to be very cognizant of how you're portraying yourself out there as an executive? You know, as we're talking about She Means Business, there's a way you're portraying yourself. Talk to us about executive presence, and then I also want us to have a discussion around your personal brand, growing that, and then there's the corporate brand. How do you gel the two and make sure that they're not interfering with each other? Because sometimes people are not sure that, okay, this is who I am and I'm building this, but at the same time, there's my organization and there are things that maybe I should be doing, I shouldn't be doing.
So I'll take on executive presence. So executive presence is equals to your confidence and your clarity and how you're portraying yourself. Because that also, your presence leads to your image and your leadership. Once people have trust in you as a person, your values, then the next thing is, how are you dressed? How are you presenting yourself? Are you presenting yourself as a leader? Because image means trust. If someone looks at you and they believe, I'm giving you my 50 million or whatever, I can trust you and you will, you know, do this, this and this. But if people look at you and then they're like, hey, you know how you look at someone and you're like, hey, this one, I don't know. And it all just comes from image. The person hasn't even talked. You know, you have a meeting, you know, and the person is like, I'll be there by 10, they're walking in at 11. Already, they've not even spoken, but already you're like, how can I trust you? It's basics of time, first impressions. So executive presence, it's really about also leadership and how you present yourself and first impressions.
I think for me, there's something, again, around values. You know, values are very much about who you are. Because I don't think, I know sometimes that people say that as Sally, this particular type of person, and therefore my personal brand is all about this, and therefore when I show up in my work, I should be different. Actually, you find more or less you are the same person, because your values are the same. What drives you in your business, as you are, whether you are employed or you are the business owner, should actually be the same things that are driving you individually. Because then, if I believe in excellence, it does not mean then that in my personal brand then I cannot be excellent. You see, so it's very complementary, and I think that's what separates the conflict. Because sometimes people say, because on the weekend I'm letting loose. You can enjoy life, but you will do it within the values that you have already established. Therefore, there are some things which are personal, which you will not share perhaps with the public because you don't want to do that. But then you will also, if people see you, there should be no dissonance between Sally as a leader and Sally as an individual, because for sure my values should be tied to where I also work, because I'm working there most of the time because they match the values that I aspire to, or I live for, or I want to sort of become more known for. Therefore, things like integrity, you know, confidence, all these things. But I can tell you that there is a challenge, and I'm going to ask Connie about this, because while, for instance, I have worked in the corporate world for many years, I was more known and associated myself with the brand, and actually felt very shy to stand out and build my personal brand. It only took my starting my own business, and I mentioned this to Claire when we met, that I started saying, oh, I now need to be a bit in the front because this is my business. And I feel now when I'm doing it that it was actually a disservice to myself, because I should have been building my brand at the same time. Because as you say, one time or other you will separate, but your personal brand will remain.
Stand out.
Yes. So how do you know, sort of maneuver that?
So I'll give my example. Just back in the days when I was beginning my Instagram a few years ago, I never used to put my picture. I just used to put pictures of, you know, me, you know, styling a photo shoot, or me speaking on a branding. And I remember my team is like, we need to see you. Then I'm like, but why? Right? The work can speak for itself. And then they told me something important. People connect to people they can see, they can believe in, and are authentic. They're like, they don't want to see just images of, you know, a training or, you know, individuals or a photo shoot. They want to see who is behind the lens, or who's behind doing the work. So slowly I started, you know, just putting my picture out there and my images, and it also builds credibility, because even when a client, you know, can check online Connie Aluoch, like, okay, that's word number one. What does she look like? In this day and age, if someone cannot find you online, already people are raising their eyebrows, right? So at least once you're able to see me, they're like, okay, this is what she does. You can see me at action, you know, in action, working, or on this show. Then there's also a level of credibility. So putting yourself out there is important. It may not be that you want to be on all platforms, but I say at least LinkedIn. Right? And LinkedIn as a thought leader in your area of expertise. That is how you slowly build. And over time, people begin to relate, and they're like, we want to work with this person or with this brand.
Sally, I'm going to ask you a little bit about what what else you've been doing to build your own personal brand now as a business owner. But Connie, you mentioned that thing about you're doing your work engagements and all that. So are you saying that before you were posting like a photo of you, but you are in an engagement and things like that, and now you've changed to you in your element?
Yes, because again, so when I was posting, it was just maybe a training, like, you know, then you see the screen, you know, personal brand. You don't see the person behind the training. So people are like, but who is that? People want to see who the person is. Who is behind this work? If you don't know the person behind this work, then how do you know this work is credible? It could be AI generated, right? But when you start seeing, okay, this is Connie training, this is Connie mentorship, they're like, okay, so she's a real person. This is who she is. And then slowly I realized my following began growing. I was like, that's what it was. Because you want to relate. Yeah, you don't want to just go on Instagram page and just see a posting of a quote of, if I remember, even used to just post quotes every Monday. No traction.
No, it's not
nothing. I tried everything. I tried to sponsor posts. I tried this, and then when I just began putting myself out there, and it was very targeted to my work, right? And then that's how, you know, and even that's how I've been able to grow my LinkedIn over time, just posting what I do, because I love what I do, whether it's a mentorship or a training or a speaking or an engagement where it's a fashion event or something. And that's, you know, that's slowly how you begin growing.
And how about you, Sally? What has your experience
I can tell you mine has not been as easy as that. I mean, it's terrible to the extent that even on Instagram, so many people try to follow me, and I just sort of don't. Because I'm not, and I accepted this, that my platform, and I agree with you, because when I'm in my professional life, my platform is LinkedIn. I could be more active for sure, but when I'm active, I really make sure that I can speak a bit about what I know. As you say, it's important to talk about your areas of expertise. On Instagram, I'm a bit more light-hearted. I mean, I share whatever knowledge I think is relevant. I will speak about various sort of, because in advertising, you sort of do many things, and you're not necessarily an expert in one thing. So that's what I feel. But you asked a question about why now is when I'm a bit more in the forefront. Please believe me, I was really pushed into it. It was not, it did not come naturally. I still don't feel I'm there yet. I'm really trying to put myself out there, because I really believe what Connie is saying, that people relate to people. But also I realized that I had a lot to offer. Over the years, I've had a lot of experience. I've learned a lot of things. I do have something that somebody can learn from. And I think that is what has made it easier for me to speak more and more on camera, and to use even many other platforms to begin to share my knowledge, because with so many years of experience, I started feeling, why should it go to waste? After our show ran, where you featured me, I got so many people who said, we have waited for years for you to show up and to share what you know, because we know you and you shared it with us, but more people need to hear and learn from you. And so I realized actually that is where, you know, it made it a bit easier for me, because I never thought of it that way. I just never thought that, you know, my clients value what I have to share. I never thought outside of that, because in that context, I felt I was sharing what I knew. But I never thought, oh, maybe there's other people sitting out there on social media who are probably struggling with the same thing, and they just don't know where to get it. And with young people coming into play, trainings and courses being expensive, where else do they go? For instance, I told you when I met you that this is a platform where a lot of people will be able to learn, to engage with you, or even, you know, with your guest on the social media platforms, and it's an opportunity they would never have had outside of the platform that you have created. And so I think we should share what we know. We should try as much as possible, because it's not just about because we are able to offer it at a price. How else are we able to share what we know without having to charge for it, so that more people can be able to benefit from it?
Yeah, I really like that, and I like the impact that you're talking about, you know, like She Means Business. That's what you want to do. People just put yourselves out there. You have so much to offer, but sometimes people don't know about it. Just the people close to you. So the rest of the world needs to know.
Absolutely.
And you know, as we start getting to a close of this discussion, we could have it on and on.
Yes.
Connie, you had mentioned something about, you know, you're judged, you don't judge a book by its cover, but we do judge a book by its cover. So how you present yourself really determines a lot. So what would you say to that woman out there who is trying to build her own personal brand, whether she's in business, whether she's in employment, about how to present herself in a way that is going to get her to where she wants to be? Because sometimes, you know, you said you're going to sign that 50 million or 500 million deal, but do you look like it? And then there's that question of, some people start faking it. You know, some people start putting, they go and hire out a Mercedes or something like that to close the deal. So how do you strike the balance?
So I think it's an interesting question, and I get a lot of that. But I think number one, it's the basic of number one. I'm going to go back to authenticity. Okay, I'm going to sign this 10 million deal. Okay, I'm going to sign this 10 million deal, but I'm coming 2 hours late. Even before we get into even how you look, time. We need to learn to respect people's time. So if you're going to sign the 10 million deal, you've been told to be there by 10 a.m. What is the most appropriate time to arrive? Let me ask that question, Claire.
9:30.
At least, the very minimum. Arriving at 10, you're late. 9:30, right? How do you arrive? Whether you arrive in your big car or whatever other mode of transport, fine, all right? But number two, how are you looking, right? How are you turning up? You don't have to be in the whole major expensive wardrobe, but are you professionally dressed? The 10 million deal deserves a look that is professional, whether you're a gentleman or a lady, whether it's a suit or a blazer, your shoes, your whole appearance, and also your demeanor. You know, are you someone who just gives out bad energy and people don't want to be around? Right now, people only want positive vibes, as we say. Right? So all that in a whole package, and then, you know, you go sign your deal. But remember, you must always be professional, how you relate to people and how you communicate at all times. So that's in a nutshell.
Maybe I can add just one thing to that, because I think what you're saying is very important. And you know, I always feel that it's important to know where you're going and how to show up for that particular thing. Because what I find is that people are sometimes confused when they show up for something that is a very professional setup, and they don't take the time to understand that it does not have to be expensive, but there is a way that you can show up looking corporate and to fit into the conversation. I have experienced it so many times when I go to a client meeting, and sometimes somebody will show up in a very sort of casual, and you know what I notice? That the people in the room tend to speak to the people who they find, this is the person with authority, this is the person who looks more serious. And we underestimate, people say first impressions. We really underestimate. And I know we live in a world where more casual is in. But I think you always have to think about, who am I meeting? What is this meeting about? Who is my audience? How should I therefore show up? You can be casual, but you can be smart. You know, there is a way you can show up that people know you have respected the occasion, the meeting, and what you are there to discuss. So I would only add that sometimes while we think, it's great to just show up, it's my brain, that, it is your brain. But I think people also want you to show the respect that you have for the discussion that you're going to be having.
If you're never sure of what to wear, I always say AI is your best friend. What to wear to a business meeting, what to wear to sign a deal. I mean, to be very honest, I mean, we're in the age of AI. If you're not sure, I'm always like, you have the resources.
Exactly.
Images are there. It will even tell you this is what you should wear, recommended. I mean, there's...
I saw when I met Connie today, I told her, she's looking so beautiful. And more and more, there was a time when corporate wear was not considered what Connie is wearing. But today, more and more, it is quite acceptable. And then today, more and more, it's accessible because you can actually get somebody to stitch it for you. So I say, use whatever resources you have. Show up even in your own unique way, your own unique style. So you don't always have, corporate does not mean wear a very expensive suit, very expensive shoes. It doesn't mean that. It shows your own personal style, but make sure it is suited to you. Don't try and copy. Like, I cannot carry what Connie is wearing. This is her personal style. So find your personal style. What is it that complements you, and show up. Because as you said earlier, confidence is also in how you show up. Because if I come and I feel I don't belong here because of the way I've dressed, it will show in the way I speak, in the way I present. People will see that I'm very nervous because I don't feel like I belong. So it really plays. This personal branding, all these things that we talk about play a very big role in how you show up in the world.
Yeah, I like that. Just, it comes down to values, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but respect the person you're going to meet.
Exactly.
And AI is your friend. If you're not sure,
for real, just check. So images, everything.
Exactly. So now, as we come to a conclusion, I'd just like to hear from you ladies. I'd like you to give a tip to the ladies who are watching, who mean business. What is that one tip of advice that you'd give them for them to ensure that they grow their brand to be a strong brand, to make them stand out from the crowd? And I'll start with you, Connie.
So I think I'd like to tell all the ladies and even the gentlemen, always remember you're a brand. Always. I call myself ME Incorporated, me incorporated. I'm a brand. I must, first of all, love myself as a brand. I must be proud of who I am as a brand. And every day I wake up and I pray and I show up. And that's my advice to you. Just wake up, pray, and show up as your brand in your best self.
I think when we had our show, I spoke about it. I think it is to be confident, and it is to be consistent, and it is to do it even when you're scared. And so before we close, I'll ask the same question to Claire. It's been 50 episodes of She Means Business. What is your advice? You can have 3 because you've been doing 50 episodes. I don't think you can only give us one. So what are the tips that you would give? 3 really good tips that you can give the women who are watching today.
Thanks for that, Sally. I think one thing that I would tell the ladies and even the gentlemen who are watching is that you just need to be consistent. Sometimes you're not very sure about how the outcome might be, but be consistent in whatever you choose to do, whether you're in business, whether you're in employment. When you start a project, just see it through, be consistent and keep on. And another thing that I would say is also get feedback. Sometimes you think that you have this great idea, but then when you get feedback, it makes it even better. you know, so there's no monopoly of knowledge. So when you consult people, ask them, what do you think if we do this, if we do that, it just makes it so much better. So it's been really good doing this She Means Business when we are with the whole team. They give ideas of people we should feature. They think, oh, maybe we could film this way, that way, and that way, and it becomes so much better. So for me, it's consistency and also getting feedback and getting ideas from people. So I think those would be the two tips that I would give people. And even as we close, as I said, that She Means Business, we're now going to start going to the counties, and we'll have something for the men. And I think I just want to give a special shout out to the whole team that has made this possible. The She Means Business would not be here if it weren't for my boss, Effie, who has been very supportive. We've had the whole team. As I said, when we started, it was an all-girl crew, and right now we have one of the girls out behind there. We had Ndinda, we had Mumbua, and then we've now had also men.
Nice.
So we've incorporated Sydney and Anjago. The whole team at Citizen Digital have been pouring in their heart into this, and they've really supported it. And so I'm just excited about what we have next. And obviously, I cannot also forget my other boss, Carol Washira, who has really been instrumental in making sure that these episodes happen. So what we have next, just keep in store. We are going to continue empowering you, both men and women, and we are going to keep on sharing the stories of people who are making an impact. So thank you so much, Dali, for doing this. You're such a star. And Connie as well. You know, we had been planning an episode forever, but you know,
it came together
at the right time. At the right time. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and we'll continue to make this thing work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a special edition of She Means Business, the first year anniversary, and you look out for more. It's been great. Have a good one. I have been your host, Claire Munde.